Another challenge that the next generation has, for the next generation that are going to work toward or strive to be in management positions that people don't talk about enough, how we attract and retain that talent. People within the property management industry at the property manager level kind of switch companies quite a bit, at least from what I see. So we'll probably have 3 different careers. Some people may stay in property management forever, but some might not. So how we can attract and retain that talent and make them excited about having a career and staying in a lifelong career in property management, I think will be a challenge.
What are some of the things that you think that property management companies could be doing to attract and retain that talent?
I think it depends on the team, right? It's a very hands-on team approach that we have between our property management and our building operations, and also with our service providers, who I see as an extension of our team. So I think it is dependent on building a good team and making people excited to come to work every day. So some days are hard, so it's good to have team building activities and activations for our staff as well to get to know each other and debrief from a bad day, I think is really important.
Welcome to the Mastering Property Management Podcast. I'm your host, Jared Sarbit. Join me as we delve into candid conversations with industry experts to uncover their strategies and insights for achieving success in property management. Whether you're a seasoned pro or just starting out, let's elevate your property management skills together.
Excited to have Christina Martin on. Christina Martin is a property manager with Hines and really part of the next generation of property managers coming up. So excited to have you on, Christina.
Awesome. Thanks for having me, Jared.
Yeah, definitely. Christina, tell me a little bit about your journey into property management. What are some of the major milestones along the way? Go back as far as you want, and just kind of give the listeners an idea of how you got to the place that you are today, and where are you today?
Yeah, perfect. So I guess kind of as a common trend with most people that have already spoken on this podcast, I sort of just fell into the industry. So my background is a little bit different than some property managers that have a traditional business background. I studied urban planning and environmental sustainability at my undergrad out east in Dalhousie University. And after that, I applied basically to every Canadian city's city planning teams. And I was contacted for 0 interviews, which was super discouraging as a young, keen university grad. So I kind of went back to the drawing board and was like, where can I start? Do I go back to do my master's, or do I get real life work experience? So I decided to get real life work experience, and that's how I moved out west. I got a job at the Fairmont Chateau Lake Louise, working in hospitality for 1.5 years, and then decided that I needed to kind of get a big girl job and not just stay in hotels forever. So I did take a postgrad certificate through University of Calgary, and through that program, I was actually hired on at Hines. So I started as an administrative assistant for the development team, working on the One Park Central development, which is a multi-family rental building right downtown Calgary. So the site we acquired had a building on it already. So the demolition and the development permit, I was involved with all that. And then I was kind of quickly promoted to the dark side because of my experience with hospitality. They promoted me to an assistant property manager position where I oversaw Atco Park complex, which was a great learning experience for me. And then I did leave Hines for a short stint, which is common. Lots of property managers seem to move around within the industry. I took a promotion to work at Colliers, where I kind of managed some different asset classes. And then actually during my time there, Hines called me back. So that's where I am today. I sit as a property manager in First Tower building, but our team does manage 2 different office towers downtown. So that's kind of how I got into it in short but long.
Amazing. That's awesome. Thank you for that. And I haven't known you very long, Christina. We've chatted, in passing and a few times. But one thing I've noticed about you is you're a real high achiever. You're always, you're very active in the community, looking to great things. Tell me a little bit more about the qualities and that contribute to the success and where you've been today. Like what makes Christina tick, and what makes you so successful in what you're doing?
Yeah, I feel like I've gotten this question a few times. I mentor some University of Calgary students who are interested in real estate, but think real estate is kind of the typical realtor selling homes. So I've mentored some of them through their business degrees, and kind of my advice to them is that I think I advanced so quickly within my career because I kind of just put my hand up for the tasks or the projects in addition to my day-to-day that nobody really wanted. And some of those tasks aren't glamorous, but it goes a long way with building a reputation with your managers, just having trust in you. And you learn a lot of skills throughout the way with working with different individuals as well. So I think early on, I kind of just volunteered. I wanted to learn everything within Hines, not just development. So I put my hand up to sit in on property management meetings and put my hand up to sit in with our asset managers. And sometimes they told me no, but I was just consistent in asking to be included in the meetings for my learning, not to speak in them necessarily, but just to observe. And kind of eventually they let me sit in on some of these bigger meetings. And I think that just shows that you're engaged and want to grow within the company. And I think putting your hand up for those tasks that nobody really wants to do, or everyone's like, oh, don't pick me for, goes a long way to kind of accelerate within the corporate ladder pretty quickly. So that's how I did it, I think.
That's amazing. I love that. Were you always that way? Like, were you like that in school and, in university? Like, or is this kind of a thing that a newfound passion that you're just really taking a liking to and discovered a new side of you? Or
I think it kind of started in high school. My friends always joke with me and people that know me well, but in high school, I was on like literally every committee that you could be on. So when the yearbooks would come out, I was on every single one. And it wasn't even just to like find what I wanted to like different interests. So anything from like book club to like the environmental committee, just to meet different people, I guess, and learn from their expertise and the different senior students that kind of led them. So I've been involved with a lot of committees since high school, and then kind of channeled that throughout the student clubs in university as well. And then after university, it's kind of a weird phase of life getting into the corporate world. So I think I just put myself into what was natural to me and joined a lot of committees. And that's how I built my network and learned about other businesses within the property management world that I didn't even know existed when I first started. There's so many different property technology companies and things like that. So I think just kind of doing that worked for me.
Awesome. That's so cool. What inside of you desires that, is it just this deep desire to learn? Is it a deep desire to stay busy and be active? What's motivating you? Because not everyone has, you can't really teach that desire that you have. I don't think it's a pretty special thing that few people have. What is that about that you think that you have?
I guess I've always been a continuous learner. So even in university, I would always take electives that were totally unrelated to my degree. And some people were like, why are you taking that? That seems silly. But to me, I think it helps you diversify your skill set as opposed to just having class with the same people. My program was super small. It was only 50 people. So I like taking the bigger classes that had like 200 people and meeting different people and seeing where their career journeys took them outside of university. I think everyone has a story to tell, and just learning that people aspect is kind of an invaluable skill. As a people manager, we have to manage people with different personalities. So I think that was kind of the drive. I've always been a continuous learner. My parents probably brought me up well to drive that in me. My mom was a teacher growing up, so she always liked to learn. And I think that just kind of trickled down to me. So I give her kudos as well.
Amazing. That's awesome. Oh yeah. Thanks for that. It's really amazing to watch. You can see you're on a path to win. That's for sure. So,
hopefully.
Yeah, definitely. So talking about, being active, you're a part of BOMA, the Next Generation Committee. What role do you see, young professionals playing in shaping the future of property management, and maybe talk a little bit about BOMA as well?
So I do co-chair the BOMA Next Generation Committee. I did sit on the committee just as a general member for a year and then was kind of promoted to the co-chair position. BOMA's great, but the Next Gen committee is even greater, in my opinion. So it's targeted toward those 35 and under within the industry. We sort of put on 4 marquee events per year. We try and do 2 more that are social focused on networking, and then 2 more educational events to kind of diversify the offering that we're offering to our BOMA Next Gen members. And I think it's a really special platform because it's giving people that are newer in the industry a voice. Some people may not feel comfortable going to their manager and asking them questions when they're newer to the industry and still building their skill set. So I think it's a great platform for that, to build a community within that, because someone probably has been in a similar situation and how to deal with a difficult conversation with a manager. So I think it's kind of a platform for that. And then also a lot of the people that came out of the BOMA Next Gen committee accelerated within their careers really successfully as well. And most of them sit on the BOMA board now or within other variations of committees within BOMA. So I think it's just a great platform. And basically everyone in the Next Gen committee, sometimes there's oh, you just host party events. But realistically, those people that come out of there will eventually one day be leaders in the property management industry. So it's important for them to build their network of key people that they can work with from both the vendor side and also to collaborate with property managers from competitor companies as well. So building that strong network of community. And most of us are kind of lifelong friends outside of the committee now too, which is great to see. And then eventually when they are in more senior leadership positions, they have people to go to, right? As opposed to trying to build those connections later in life. So I think that's kind of the intent. But I think it is kind of an interesting time right now. Like even somebody that maybe studied the exact same program as me, even though I am young, I did graduate in 2016. So I've been out of school for a while now. So they bring a different lens too, right? Coming straight out of school. And I think we can all learn from each other through that.
Awesome. Very, very cool. And what other associations are you a part of and committees? You're on a few, I believe.
I think I'm on too many, but I do it now and I'm young and have the energy and no like kids or anything like that. Yeah. So I think it's good to do now. But yeah, so I'm involved with the BOMA Next Gen. I also did recently participate with the BOMA mentorship program this year. So I was a protege and had a mentor. It was like kind of a 4-week session with a leadership coach, and then you were encouraged to meet with your mentor throughout the year. So that was really valuable, and hopefully one day I'll be asked to be a mentor through the program as well to see kind of both sides of it. And then recently within BOMA as well, I have been accepted to be on the Canadian National BOMA Emerging Leaders Committee, which are all virtual meetings. So I'm my first one next week, so I'm not truly aware of all that entails, but very excited for that as well, to see a different side of BOMA and what they're doing within other markets in Canada. And then I do sit on a crew committee as well, so it's more focused within women in commercial real estate. I sat on the membership committee for 2.5 years, and this year I'm on the golf committee. So working to plan the golf event, which is exciting. I'm just getting into golf myself. So I figure being on the golf committee will make me more dedicated with my golf lessons and going out to practice before the tournaments in August. And then I also sit on the ULI, which is the Urban Land Institute, their Young Leaders Committee. So that was kind of the first committee that I was involved with when I started on development. It's more construction management, and they tour new construction projects downtown before they open to the public. So we did a hard hat tour of the Cornerstone building recently, which was the first office to res conversion downtown Calgary, which was really neat to see. And it also kind of works with Hines as well, like the founder of Hines, who has since passed, but he was one of the founding sponsors for the Urban Land Institute student competition, which is really big in Toronto. So it's good to just have some Hines representatives still in the Urban Land Institute in Calgary.
Incredible. That's I'm trying to, as you're talking, I'm trying to figure out how you manage all that in your schedule. That's you got so much going on, but you could tell you love it. So you know, when you love something, you just find the time to do it, right? Is that what
I think time is a funny thing. A lot of people within my generation, I think, say they don't have time for things or use time as an excuse because it's kind of just a societal norm now. But I think you make time for the things that you care about. And that's just something that I've always channeled. And I think it's better to be busy than bored. So
words of wisdom. Amazing. I love that. I love that perspective. I've actually never heard that before. That's really, really cool.
Yeah.
You're a Bachelor of Community Design with a double major in environmental studies, brings a unique perspective to property management. How do you integrate principles from these fields into your approach into managing your properties?
So I think a lot of people think it's not related to property management at all, but it's actually more related than people probably think by reading it on a sheet of paper. But urban planning, what I learned the most out of that part of my degree was creative problem solving skills. So you're always tasked with a specific project and how to work within budgets and owner constraints and things like that. So creative problem skills is like one of the highest things that I look for when hiring someone within our property management team. So I think that was what kind of made me excel as well, even though I had a unique perspective and not a standard business degree. It did kind of help me have a different lens of how we design our spaces. Urban planning too is kind of a little bit different than some of my colleagues in school that did take architecture degree, because it's more about designing spaces that work for people. And I think that's really relevant right now in the office space. We're trying to attract more tenants to come to work, especially post-pandemic with the hybrid work schedule. So I think for us, like lots of people, prospective office tenants, when they're looking to rent space, they're looking to check boxes like, does it have a fitness center? Does it have a conference center? Does it have a tenant lounge? Is kind of the standard. And I think that's one thing. But the second aspect of that is how you activate that space and how you program it. If you have a fitness center, but you offer no classes, right? Like that's not really good once the tenant moves in. So I think that activation and programming within urban planning is really relevant right now, especially in the property management world when there is a lot of office vacancy downtown in Calgary and lots of landlords are designing beautiful amenities. But the programming piece is also very important.
Interesting. Yeah, I love that. It makes a lot of sense. Can you share any specific projects or initiatives where you've successfully implemented sustainable practices in property management, and what were the outcomes?
So I guess from our side of things, obviously most of our buildings that we have within Hines have our LEED certification. So there is a lot of work that goes into ensuring we obtain that LEED status every year. So that has helped me as well. There's a new certification called Fitwell Ambassador. So it's more about use spaces and programming within spaces and bike lockers and things like that, if you have those amenities and showers for tenants. So though the buildings that I manage may not be Class A office buildings, the use and the programming that we have in it fits really well for that. So that's one of my goals to work toward to get that certification for our office building in 2025. It's kind of new. It's sort of like well, but it's a lot lower of a cost for our owners, and it can still be used as a leasing tool to attract new tenants. So I think that's kind of exciting. And then we have implemented quite a few different waste diversion programs. So essentially all of our garbage is sorted in our loading dock before it goes into the correct waste stream. And we kind of started that sort of before all of this net zero building talk has come around. So our building's been doing it for a while. It's not the most glamorous job having somebody sort all of the waste, but it's really great for our tenants who have that underlying principle as one of their company's objectives. So it does help with our diversion rate for sure. And I think that will become even more important when we do have this push toward net zero in 2040 as our Hines target. So.
Amazing. Yeah, that's really good. You're obviously you're on top of it. That's for sure. And
yeah, the sustainability part will be kind of tricky in the next few years because there's a push towards sustainable buildings, but then there's also a push towards buildings that have lots of technology. So where's that balance, right? And weighing those costs between something that's sustainable and has technology to keep us more efficient, but then also is actually sustainable as well. So I think it will be kind of interesting to see those trends and even just the different technology that companies are putting out and how it integrates with the sustainability initiatives.
Amazing. Very cool. What unique challenges and opportunities do you believe the new generation faces in the property management industry compared to previous generations? I mean, you're kind of, you're probably working with a lot of senior execs that have been around for a long time, but then you're also with the next gen, you're seeing a lot of the young up and comers, and you're a young up and comer. What do you see, what are the challenges that the young up-and-comers are facing?
Well, I think property technology will be actually a challenge and an opportunity in the coming years. There is tons of great property technology that can make our buildings and our teams more efficient, but there are so many options. So it's vetting those options, and some of these companies are new and haven't been in business for that long. So just kind of vetting those and then ensuring that they connect with all of our existing building systems. Because each building is unique and they get upgrades within different times. So we're lucky at Hines, we do have a global client experience digital team. So basically anytime we upgrade anything, access card readers, parking systems, they review it because the intent one day is to have a global app. So if you're a tenant in a Hines building in the US and you're traveling to Canada for work, you can have access to basically those amenities. So making sure that technology integrates with our variety of different ownership groups and variety of different vintages of buildings will be interesting to see. And I think another challenge that the next generation has for the next generation that are going to work toward or strive to be in management positions that people don't talk about enough is how we attract and retain that talent. People within the property management industry at the property manager level, 8 p.m. kind of switch companies quite a bit, at least from what I see. Within the industry, but how can we attract and retain those people? And people in my generation with the rising costs, we're going to work forever, right? So we'll probably have 3 different careers. Some people may stay in property management forever, but some might not. So how we can attract and retain that talent and make them excited about having a career and staying in a lifelong career in property management, I think will be a challenge.
That's a very, very astute point. What are some of the things that you think that property management companies could be doing to attract and retain that talent?
I think it depends on the team, right? It's a very hands-on team approach that we have between our property management and our building operations, and also with our service providers, who I see as an extension of our team. So security, housekeeping, fitness center managers. So I think it is dependent on building a good team and making people excited to come to work every day. There has been kind of a switch within property management lately with the focus towards more hospitality standards. But still, at the same time, most people only contact their landlord when they have a complaint, right? So some days are hard. So it's good to have team building activities and activations for our staff as well, to get to know each other and debrief from a bad day. Or if they have a tenant who's really aggravated at them and they're upset, like, I encourage people to go for a walk, leave the property, come back. Like, the building's not on fire. What we do can wait a couple minutes and come in with the clear mind, and encouraging people to take proper breaks, I think, is really important.
Amazing. That's fantastic. Do you guys do a lot of team building within Hines?
We try to. We try and implement a plan Fridays, and our accounting team is actually on a hybrid work schedule, and our accountant decided to come in on Fridays because we were always doing something fun.
Cool.
Have the option to work from home. So I think it was successful, and it's usually less busy downtown. And so we try to even use some of like the games that we have in our lounge for our tenants, so that we can experience them as well, so that operators can recommend them to tenants, like what their favorite game is that you can sign out in our tenant lounge. So we're trying to think of kind of creative low cost ideas as well internally. And then within Hines Calgary, we try and get together. We have like 4 quarterly team building events, and then our annual holiday party, because we're all at different buildings. So sometimes it is hard to get away, but we try and do that so that we can share ideas with the other buildings and whatnot.
Awesome. That's awesome. Very cool. Collaboration and networking is vital in our industry. How do you engage with, as we just were touching on, how do you engage with your peers, and mentors to enhance your skills and knowledge in property management?
So for me, being involved with so many committees, I've gotten an opportunity to meet so many people. The networking associations are great, and some people do just attend the events of the topics that they're interested in. But being on the committee gives you definitely a different lens. You get to meet with those people within the committee usually once per month and meet in person. So you kind of get to develop a different relationship through mentorship as well. I think it's been great. I've been lucky to have quite a few different mentors within my career. And I think it is important to have mentors that are not just within your organization, because you can learn what other people are doing. And I always say, if another building is doing it, like, we may as well, doing it better, we may as well adopt it as well. So it's not necessarily stealing ideas. It's making a better downtown, right? So if all these buildings have these amazing amenities, they all jumped on that trend. But then the activations is a whole other part, right? So it's making people excited about our city, Calgary, and also downtown. So I think that is super important. So collaborating within that, and also within our team to just having open communication and being transparent, I think, goes a long way.
Totally. That's awesome. As a rising star in the property management world, you've kind of given a bit of advice already on, what would you tell other young professionals? Go a little bit more into that. How are those young new people into the industry going to excel at the rate that you are? You've mentioned the committees. Is there anything above and beyond that you'd recommend doing?
I mean, you meet lots of people through the different industry networking events, or also there's various webinars that you can join. And I think reaching out to people, like when you're really green in the industry and you think you don't have any experience, but reaching out to somebody that you saw on a podcast or within a webinar that you think could bring value to your career, reaching out to them on LinkedIn, most people are willing to meet. And I think just having that initial conversation is good, right? They might be a lifelong contact. You might even work for them. You might work with them later on. So I encourage people to reach out, even if you're like, oh, I am just a property administrator. Like, I would love to meet with more property administrators and hear what their challenges are and what they would like to see from property managers. And I think we can all grow that way. So even though it might be scary about reaching out to those people, when I was young too, like, it's easy to kind of sit with the people that you know at these events. But I needed a goal for like a year and a half to always sit with somebody that I didn't know And it's hard sometimes because you want to sit with your friends, and sometimes it's just easier when you get to know these people or with the committee. But I think you can learn a lot by just putting yourself outside of your comfort zone. So I encourage people to do that.
Great advice. Great advice. Can you share a particularly challenging property management situation you faced, and how you effectively resolved it?
I think in property management, I kind of stated this earlier, but most people don't contact their landlord when they're happy. We do have some tenants that do tell us when they're really happy that we put on a specific event, but most of the time it's an issue like a leak or something even bigger than that. So I think just in terms of our team, what we try and do is when a new tenant is moving in, we try and develop that relationship before they even move in. So we'll do tenant onboarding meetings and just making it really clear. Like some tenants don't understand, like our day-to-day contact isn't who signed the lease. So just going in right off the start and making sure they're really well aware of like these are what are included in your operating costs, and this is what's in addition, and also making sure that those building rules and regulations are stated up front. It's just a lot easier when you're managing the relationship once they move in, as opposed to them being like, hey, what's this? Hey, what's that? Hey, what's this? Bombarding you with questions, and then them being like, well, we didn't know that we didn't get this. So I think just developing that early on is kind of been a strategy we've started to implement. So any of our new tenants, we have quite a few different onboarding meetings before they're even in the building. And the tenants that have moved in recently, we've gotten great recommendations from them. And they're like, none of our other landlords have done this, right? So it's just something that we kind of differentiated ourselves because some of our tenants before were used to how the other property management company did things when Hines took over this building. And it's like, okay, but we manage the building now, and this is the lease that you signed. And that was tricky at the start, right? Like they weren't happy because they had to pay more for certain things, but our job is to protect our ownership interests too, right? So sometimes it's competing priorities. So I think that's gone a long way. Another kind of unique situation that we've had and some other property managers in the city have had to deal with is our office building's close to the river pathways. So we actually had geese nest on our terrace that's open to the public right before Stampede 2 summers ago. And our patio was booked for tenant events all Stampede. And I was like, we cannot have this happen. Anyways, they ended up, the babies hatched right before Stampede, and they were able to relocate them because it was on a higher floor. So since then, we've developed a lot of strategies to make sure that it doesn't happen again. So I think there's always something to learn. We wear a lot of different hats, and we're a generalist in a lot of things. But we partnered with a great pest control provider, and there's all kinds of weird hacks. And I don't know for sure if they actually do deter the geese, but knock on wood, we haven't had the geese in. So we have security patrol really regularly. And in the nighttime, it's kind of hard to scare them away. So one of the pest control providers said to take a laser lighter and just point it at their feet, not at their eyes or anything like that. And they're kind of like cats. They will fly away. They don't like it. So we've done that. Our security, I swear, thinks I'm crazy sometimes with the tasks inside them, but they're on site all the time, so they have to help us. And apparently they don't like the scent of grape Kool-Aid, so we sprinkle grape Kool-Aid in our fingers right before they're nesting. And since then, we've had no issues. So
that is incredibly random.
Yeah, I don't know if it works, but we're like, we haven't had them yet, so we're going to continue to do it.
That's awesome. Very cool. Yeah, that's amazing. It just goes to show, I mean, the business that you're in it's a business with a million details. You know, there's so many things that can come up in different scenarios. And like you said, you kind of got to be a generalist in a lot of it, but and then depend on great experts around you. There's some great examples. So I hope those geese are doing well wherever they are now.
Yeah, hopefully they're by the river down in Eau Claire.
Totally. Awesome. As you know, I own a janitorial company. And assuming janitorial is one of your largest ongoing costs in your properties, how do you look for janitorial companies to work with, and what qualities in the company are you looking for when choosing a janitorial company?
Janitorial is a really big service contract, obviously, for any commercial office building. And the standards are vary between all of the different owners and property managers. But I would say the largest thing within our team is our janitorial providers, our security, our building operators. They're in the face of our tenants probably more than our property management team are. So we want them to be an extension of us. And they actually participate in all of our Hines training with us. We put it as a contract addendum on some of the required trainings that they do because we want the level of service to be consistent. So if a tenant comes to me and I have my own way of dealing with the situation. We want to make sure that if they come to security or housekeeping, that they have that same attention to detail, that same care, that same level of service like you would have when you go to a fancy hotel. So we're rolling out that program right now. It's a huge hospitality program. They're going to secret shop our properties. It's going to be a really big thing. So I'm leading that within our team. So it is a partnership, I think, first and foremost. And we want to be able to work with them, but we want them to enjoy coming to work every day and to take pride and ownership in our property and to come and to report things to us. Obviously, cost is a big deciding factor, especially for our properties that aren't 100% leased. But I think in addition to that, with janitorial RFPs and walkthroughs, it's easy. You guys probably get so many RFPs that you're invited to, and you're like, I'm probably not going to get this one because they have a relationship with so-and-so. And it's easy to just fill in the numbers and submit it. But I think what goes a long way is like asking questions on those walkthroughs and then providing recommendations, not just putting in the cost that we ask you to fill out in the standard template, but based on your expertise, like what could we be doing better? And I think that differentiates a company, and that's a company that I want to work with because we can always improve. There's always room for improvement within our industry. So I think that's something that I look for when selecting a janitorial provider.
Really, really, really good advice for us, and I really appreciate hearing that. It's we always share with our team that like wherever site we're on stage. It's a performance, and we're representing our client at all times, and that's really awesome to hear that Hines kind of has that perspective as well. And so you're kind of working as a team with your janitorial company on that. That's really nice to hear.
Yeah, we try to have relationships with not even our current service provider. Like we have relationships with other janitorial providers in the city because we learn what they're doing, and who knows, the anchor tenant in the building could have this crazy complaint or concern with their current provider. Like hopefully that doesn't happen, but it does happen in our industry. And there's always a 30-day cancellation of a contract, right? So it's good to have those relationships as opposed to just looking at pricing because it is a partnership. So.
And I love how you suggested to for the janitorial company to recommend and to kind of support the process. We always find that whenever we have that opportunity to kind of where they look to us to advise, that's where the best results happen is when we're working as a team and collaborating and giving advice, finding efficiencies and that sort of thing. So I love that you're open to that. That's really cool.
Yeah, and I think it took some time for me to push that even within our organization because we've been doing something one way forever and it's worked, it doesn't mean that there are still ways to improve or make it more efficient or make it better, right, for our building and for our tenant experience. So I think even if there's not an option on these RFPs to add recommendations, adding those recommendations will differentiate yourself as like you really care and you want this business, right? Or if you don't get it this time, it shows that like maybe next time it will be considered if cost is a constraint or what the constraint might be.
Yes, exactly. Awesome. Very good. Now for the fun questions. So if you can manage any famous property in the world, what property would that be and why?
So I think as a young girl, I've always had a dream of like wanting to live and work in New York one day. I come from a super small town in Ontario. So big cities and studying urban planning was always really neat to me. So the property that I would love to manage and maybe could one day, who knows, it's good to have big dreams, is the Rockefeller Center in New York. It's an amazing property. There's a big office tower, but then the activations that they have there is just insane. They basically program it like 24 hours. They have like outdoor skating rinks in the wintertime. They always have something. So I think that would be really a special project to be involved with.
Very cool. You've been there before?
I have, yes. New York is such a great city to visit.
Oh, wow. That's amazing. You should just reach out to, who knows who's managing it, but you should just reach out. I'm sure they'd give you a tour and all of that. So
yeah, it would be great. I think any building in New York would just be so neat. Like it's like the city that basically never sleeps. Although managing like window washing contracts, I probably wouldn't sleep when the window washers were working on the building because it's something crazy, some of the levels of stories that they have in those buildings. But I think it would be a really neat opportunity.
I love it. Your energy and your passion and everything. You really do seem like a New York girl. So I could see you out there running New York one day.
Maybe one day.
yeah, that's awesome. And then what book would you recommend to other property managers that are aspiring to achieve results like yourself?
So I guess for books, I typically read books that are like not related to corporate or leadership skills at all. Like my guilty pleasure authors are Colleen Hoover and Stephen King. Like I like to escape the work life, and that's kind of my outlet. I do love reading, but something that I would recommend, especially to like more junior managers, APMs, things like that, would be Start With Why by Simon Sinek. I think it's a great book on leadership skills, and it teaches people to kind of work within property management. We work with a lot of different personalities. Building operators are different than property managers. And I think sometimes when you're giving direction and people don't want to do a certain task, really going to the core of like why this is important, then people are more willing to work with you or help you, right? It's like, I don't want to do this either, but this is why we have to. So I think it's a great skill for any new manager to have.
Right on. No, Simon Sinek is a legend. He's a wise man, that's for sure. So thanks for that. Well, very good. Well, Christina, honestly, I'm really looking forward to seeing you in the years to come. I think you're going to be, if you're not running New York, you're going to be running Calgary in some way or another. You're destined for great things, and you're already doing great things. So thanks so much. It's an honor to have you on, and I look forward to continuing to watch your success.
Awesome. Thanks so much for having me.